Hello, everyone. Hopefully, everyone can see me, and Google is participating with me today. Welcome to Strategies for Hiring and Managing a Successful Team in 2016. I am excited to have you here today. Um, let's see, I want to make sure that everybody can see me well. Let's see here. Let's see, I want to make sure. Okay. All right, looks like everybody can see me. So welcome. Again, welcome strategies for hiring and managing a successful team in 2016. I am so glad that you decided to join me today. I have a lot of information full to help you build your team in 2016. If you have not hired anyone, or if you're looking to plan to hire someone, this webinar will be truly helpful to you as you get started on those plans, help you gain and put together, craft a strategy so that way you will you can get to where you need to be goal-wise for 2016. So we're closing out 2015, entering in 2016 to be really productive for us. And so you'll need to scale up, and you can't do it by yourself. You need a team to do that. So, all right, I'm going to start sharing my screen with you. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to start sharing my screen so we can get started. But before we do that, I am in Louisiana, and I would love to find out where you are from. So in the chat box, if you have logged in into the chat box, if you can just share where you're from, I just always like to know. And if you are not logged in, then that's okay as well too. But if you are, if you don't mind, just tell us just what part. Where you're from, what part you're from. So I'm from down south Louisiana, if, for those of you who don't know. And then we'll see if anybody else shares to let us know where they're from also. Okay. So while everyone is waiting to do that, I will get us started with sharing my screen. All right. So let's see here. Okay. All right, so hopefully you see my screen right now. This is strategies for hiring and managing a successful team in 2016. Hopefully you can see this. I'm trying to make sure that everything catches up for us. Everybody knows that with Google Hangout, there's a slight delay, so want to make sure that it catches before I keep talking. And you can't see my screen. Okay, so welcome. Let's go ahead and get into our webinar today with building a successful team. Okay, but before I do that, I know you're probably wondering exactly who I am, and looks like the screen is not sharing. Hold on one second. Let me see here. I want to make sure. Just a second. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right, so here we go. Fantastic. All right, so as I said, welcome. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I am, as promised, I wanted to give you an hour. I said that the PowerPoint would last about an hour, and so I want to stick to that and go ahead and jump into the webinar so that we can get started. Okay, so again, you're probably wondering exactly who am I? I told you that I was going to give you a lot of information, value in this webinar to talk about strategies for hiring and building a successful team. But before I get to that, I want to give you some background information on me and the experience that I have, and so that way you can get to know me a little bit better as I give you this information. So First, I'll start off with these are just pictures family-wise, just a little personal information that I want to share with you, so that way you can definitely get to know me better. This is a picture of my husband, Chad, who is a arson investigator, and you will see that he, in this picture, we're at a LSU game. So as I said, I'm from Louisiana. And if you know us down in Louisiana, we are very dedicated sports fans. And so we're at a LSU game here. And then the other one, we're in a restaurant. But anyway, this is a picture of my husband. These are pictures of my sons, my intelligent, handsome sons here, Brian and Braden. And there you can see in the middle, there's a picture of them playing sports in football. And so they're very highly energetic little boys and love to play sports activities all the time. So this just gives you some background on family-wise of my little boys and family-wise, okay? So next, who am I? This is what I want to give you some more information about me, and as I talk more about the strategies for hiring and managing a successful team. So I previously owned 2 businesses. I am the CEO and founder of Chief of Minds, which is a business and HR strategy. We also, in Chief of Minds, we define processes and systems, delve on clarity on vision, and then we offer business management support. So under Lakeisha Robichaud as Chief of Minds, and this is what I do as far as with business and HR strategy. The next piece of Who Am I gives you some more detailed information. A business and human resources strategist with over 12 years of experience in executive leadership roles at Fortune 100 and 500 companies. So in those Fortune 100 and 500 companies, I was responsible for the oversight and direction of human resources department with different territories, regions throughout the U.S., as well as running executive leadership operations for different organizations and Fortune 100 and 500 companies, and overseeing the business operations, which was the full operations of certain companies and organizations. So that gives you a little bit background experience-wise. I also have 2 bachelor degrees and then a master's in business administration. I'm a foodie, a business junkie, and love to dance and read. So as I said, I'm from Louisiana, and you will notice that in Louisiana, we love to eat, hands down. So we have all of the Creole and the Cajun food, which is delicious. I'm trying to move forward into the organic and more healthy eating at this time. However, sometimes I get a little off track with that. But just wanted to give you some more information about me before I get started, so that way you'll have an idea of who is speaking to you. All right, then share a couple of testimonials. This testimony here is with the organization that I work with, which is Milestone Academy. This is from their board president. Just where she talks about me being a true strategic thought partner. And what I do for them is business strategy and management with their organizations, and helping with operations and processes and the strategy around the organization. So just wanted to share some testimonials with you as well too, so that way you can get to know me. Also, here is another testimonial here with Eric Porter, who is a senior partner at ComNet, and some of the human resources strategy work that we've done with them through Chief of Minds. And you can read it here. But just wanted to share some of this, as I said, with you as we move forward. All right. So in addition, I love to connect with you. And here are ways that you can find me. You don't have to worry about typing any of this. Kara, who is my assistant, she's in the chat box. She will put this information in there for you, so that way the handles you'll find in case you do want to connect. Also, feel free to add your information, because I love to connect with you too, to see exactly your services or products that you offer, so that way we can stay in contact. So feel free, if you like to, in the chat roll box, to put your information. I would look forward to connecting with you very soon in the near future. Okay. And then this is another one. Another way to connect with me. This is a Facebook business group that I have called Biz Chiefs, and it is a supportive community where we offer advice and assistance on business management, business strategy, whatever it is, you name it. And so I would love for you to come over and join us in the business support group that we have. Also, you can find information on at LakeishaRobichaux.com and chiefofminds.com. All right, so today I'm going to teach you strategies for hiring and managing a successful team in 2016. Make sure that you stay with me to the end for 3 free bonuses. I have a job description template for you, interview questions, and then also a performance evaluation outline. And these things are going to be very critical, especially if you are just hiring an employee or if you are scaling your team. And if these are things that you are not doing or not offering in your business right now that you don't use, you want to get these bonuses because it is very critical to have these things as you scale up from a systems and processes standpoint, but a strategy standpoint as well too. These things need to be set in place. And so I'm going to give you outlines and questions and templates so that way you can use in your business to help grow and scale for the next year. All right, so let's look at some surprising statistics that may be interesting to some of you. Now, the Harvard Business Review you see here points out that as much as 80% of employee turnover is due to bad hiring decisions. That is an extremely high number. 80% of an employee turnover is due to bad hiring decisions. Okay, so this is why it's so critical to have a hiring strategy, because if you only have only have 20% of effective or turnover that should have taken place, and you have 80% that is just caused by bad hiring decisions, that is a true problem. And so you need to nail down exactly what it is. In addition to that, it's very costly. A lot of business owners don't really understand that turnover and bad hires cost you money. And the more you keep them in that place, in that role, and in your business, they cost you more because you've invested training and development. You may have offered them retirement. You have offered them benefits. And then it may be toxic for your culture. So the more that you let these individuals stay, the bad hires, in the position or in those roles, because it may be that they're fit for a different role, you're actually spending more and more money. So you can see an example down here where it says that poor hiring decision for a candidate earning $100,000 per year could cost on average $250,000. So that's an extra of $150,000, which is a lot of money to just throw out for a bad hire. Okay, now why did this happen? Here's a couple of things here. The need to fill quickly. Oftentimes, as business owners, we have a lot of things that's going on. Corporations, organizations are, may get increase in business and revenues. And so they need to scale up and build out their pipeline. And so sometimes it becomes an urgency to hire and fill those positions. And so they do it quickly without going through some type of process or having a system set in place to fill the positions. Also, cultural misfits, when the candidate clashes with the organization's culture. I want to talk about this a little bit because when you hire an employee or a contractor, whomever it may be, you want to make sure that they are a right fit culturally, okay? Oftentimes, organizations hire employees just based off the experience and qualifications. And don't get me wrong, that should definitely be the number one reason that you hire the employee. But along with that, in addition to the experience and qualifications, you want to make sure that they're culturally a fit, that personality is a fit with your team as well too. Because if not, that as well can be toxic for your organization. So you don't want to have a cultural misfit. So that's why you want to have some type of process in place. Also, hiring someone based off of a gut feeling, and then also termination for the wrong reason. Okay. Now, let's beat that statistic today, okay? So let's just talk about a little bit about human resources, okay? And oftentimes people confuse human resources, or they really don't understand exactly what human resources is. So it's all about the people that work in your business, okay? At the end of the day, it is, some people like to refer to human resources as the people department, or the personnel, they may say, which is an older term from, you know, I would say back in the 60s and 70s, they use the personnel department, but it's definitely evolved since then. And so you'll see here, it gives you more information about what human resources is, and it includes hiring, business leadership and strategy, benefits, employee relations, diversity, performance management, and more. So it's really a wide portfolio, but it all drills down to people in your organization and how it impacts it and grows and thrives. Okay. Now, how does it affect your business? It is the gatekeeper of your most valuable assets, which is your employees. Okay. You cannot run your business, your organization alone without employees. In order to grow and to scale, you're going to have to hire employees, or you're going to have to outsource, hire contractors. Okay. So they are your most valuable assets because they're going to be working in your business to help grow, generate revenue. Whatever your goals are, you're hiring them to reach those goals. So they're your most valuable assets. So you need to keep that in mind. Also, employee engagement, your return on investment as well too. And we're going to dig deeper into these things as we move along. Okay. Now, do you have an HR strategy? If you could tell me in the chat box right now, if you have an HR strategy, that would be great, because oftentimes, unfortunately, organizations don't really have an HR strategy. And we're going to tap into questions about an HR strategy just in a few minutes that can contribute to an HR strategy. Okay. So just share some of that with us in the chat box, actually, if you do. But here are a couple of questions right here that you'll see on the screen that shows what you could include in an HR strategy. Okay, so when you're, I'm sorry, not an HR strategy, in your hiring strategy, because that's where it all starts at. When you're hiring someone for your organization, where it starts at in the beginning, when you hire them, upon them entering into the business. Okay, so who is your ideal client? Candidate, I'm sorry, not client, candidate. Who is your ideal candidate? This is something that you definitely want to look at when you get ready to start hiring an employee or a candidate. You want to have that sketched out so you know exactly who you're looking at, what are the experience and qualifications that they need to have, what type of competencies should they have, what type of educational background do you want them to have. Okay, you need to know who that ideal candidate. You don't want to go in just basically off the cuff and winging it and trying to identify who the ideal candidate is for that role, and that candidate needs to match the role that you're hiring for. So if it's an operations manager, you need to figure out what skills and experience do you want that operations manager to possess. Okay. Next here we have the how do you identify new team members? Okay, and this should be part of your hiring strategy as well too. How are you going to go out and identify these new team members? And I'm going to give you some ideas in the next couple of slides on sourcing candidates, ways that you can do this. Also, identify the qualifications and experience. Think about how you will develop and train your new team member. I can't tell you how often when I do for clients that I work with, the 360 surveys, the feedback they're getting from employees oftentimes is during these 360 surveys is there is no training or development. They were put in the role. They were not giving any type of goals, any type of direction on responsibilities or duties, no type of training and development. So this is critical because it's successful. In order for the candidate to be successful, they need that direction and guidance from you on what they need to do inside their role and how they can make a positive and a great impact. And that's going to start from the top. Okay. And then also, what is your retention strategy? You need a retention strategy in place, because once you've hired this awesome, fantastic employee contractor, how are you going to retain them? If you're not engaging, if you're not training and developing them, then it's going to be hard to retain them. So you need some type of retention strategy. Now, retention strategies can include incentives. It can include bonuses. It can include team development. It can include workshops, the different type of benefits that you offer. It can be an array of things when it comes to retention strategies. you need to have one in place to make sure that your employees or contractors will stay. Because once you've invested in them and you have these high quality, high performing folks on your team members, then you want them to stay. So you want to have something in place to be able to do that. Now, on our next slide here, how will you track resumes? You want to keep this. Oftentimes, when hiring phases go on, you're inundated with resumes and so many, and some, and I know this is going to be true in every case. Everybody's not going to have the experience and qualifications. They won't be qualified. So what is a best practice is to do, if you don't have an application tracking system, is to track your resumes. And you can do this through Word, you can do it in Excel, just to make sure that you keep the position that you hired for, who applied for it. And it's always good to keep this from a legal perspective as well, too, in case you get some type of inquiry or something like that based on hiring practices or something like that. So I would say for legal purposes, keep that up as well. But keep your resume, make sure that you track them, and then hold on to them, because although that person may not qualify for this position, there may be another position that they may qualify down the road, and you have a vault of resumes that you can use in the future. So make sure that you track those resumes. Make sure that you track advertising costs, because you want to see how much it costs on the different platforms that you're using and who's giving you the most qualified candidates. So that way, next time, this is where you can do some testing. Next time, you can just use that particular platform only. Okay. I do tell my clients this all the time, because what they do, you'll see organizations investing in all types of different platforms each and every time. What's the newest one? When if you're getting a good ROI, return on investment, in one platform that you've been using, stick to that, because that's money going out. You can always test a little bit, but you want to be able to track that to see where you're getting the most bang for your buck. Also, establish an interviewing process. Okay, what you don't want to happen is you have candidates that come up and you interview them, and there's no type of process. There is no phone screen that you have. There's no face-to-face or Skype interview. Then there may be a next step of interviews with the rest of the team members. Then they may have to do some background check or drug screen, and before you make the offer. You want to have some type of interviewing process in place, and you can tell them that, and you should tell them that ahead of time, so they know what to expect throughout the interviewing process. But it helps give you a guide as well too, so that way you know what's the next steps in this process, and you have a checklist each and every time. So always have an interviewing process and communicate that interviewing process as well. All right, now and next, and I want to also say, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. Okay, so I can answer any questions that you may have. So definitely put them in the chat box, and I will assist as needed. Okay. Now, next we have hiring employees and contractors. All right. Anytime that you add team members to your team, you want to make sure that you set expectations, that you develop a job description, you set job criteria. There's advertising and interview. So these are some critical points and steps that you need to make sure that is done. Okay. Now, sourcing candidates. I told you in the beginning that a few minutes ago, that I would give you a couple of platforms to use for sourcing candidates. So when you know that you're ready to add to your team, so let's say this is the end of the year, you're scaling up, that you're swamped, that your team is not big enough, or your different departments are not big enough, you need to add some more employees. Okay, these are different platforms that you can use to add to your team, that you can advertise to source on. And so there's Indeed, and I can tell you that Indeed is probably the most popular platform right now that you can advertise on, and you will get some good quality candidates from. So there's Indeed, there's Career Builder, LinkedIn, Simply Hired, Monster. You can always go to the recruiting firm, Headhunters way as well too, Craigslist, colleges, and universities. And on the side here, you'll also see some free advertising, which you can use, which is the social media platforms besides Craigslist. But I would say definitely take advantage of these free advertising social media platforms. Okay, you want to make sure that you take advantage of this, because oftentimes, people think that this is just for like business advertising, but when you put it out there that you're hiring, you'll get a lot of feedback and input and recommendations on folks that you may not even get in your traditional platforms that we have here on the left. So take advantage of your social media platforms, put it out there looking for, this position. I can tell you that I've done it with some of the positions that I've hired for, also with clients, and I've gotten good feedback and responses for candidates, and I actually have hired a few as well too. So definitely check that out. All right. Next is a job description. Okay, and this is, keep in mind that this is one of the bonuses that you will get for attending. If you stay with us at the end, you will get a job description template. So don't worry if you don't have all of this information, because it will be available. Okay. Now, with the job description, you want to make sure that you have a brief summary, that you have responsibilities, education requirements, and KSAs are knowledge, skills, and abilities and competencies listed on the job description. Okay. You want to make sure that it entails this information. Okay, this is going to be, and this right here guides you to what should be listed on there, and this spells out the position and basically how you want the person to perform in that position. Okay, so as I said, stay with us to the end, and you're going to get a job description template, so that way you don't have to try to write all this down, take pictures, what have you. And I also have this information filled out as well too, so to give you some guidance on the wording that you should use inside of the brief summary responsibilities. And on the left here, hopefully you can see that it has job description, mom, duties, qualifications, which I think is pretty funny if you can take a look at, about the benefits and pay and everything like that, which is very true. I can say that with being a mom myself. Is very true, this description here, and funny. So so this is job description. This is what it should entail, okay, when you complete it. And you want to have this so that way, again, it guides you in how the person will perform. And then also, when you hire this person, they need to have a copy of their job description. They need to see exactly, what it is. And as I said, I'll give you a template for that. Now, interview questions. Okay. Now, let's just say that you're going through the hiring strategy. You have your job description. Then next, some interview questions. Now, here you can see a few bullet points that I gave you, so you can really think about the type of interview questions that you should ask. I know that there's out there, you probably can find interview questions, or you may have interview questions like, tell me a little bit about yourself, different things like that. But you want to get into those performance and behavioral type interview questions, so that way you can really dig deep to see how that person will interact when there is a problem, or if there's an issue, or something that may arise that is significant for your business, so you can see how they will react and how they will respond. Those are the type of questions that you want to ask. And in the interview question template I give you a couple of general, typical type interview questions, and then I give you a few performance based interview questions as well too, so that way you can have a good mix. But as you see here on the first one, tell me about a time when you set a goal and took steps to accomplish that goal. Okay, how will you measure the success of your position? Tell me about a time when you had to adhere to strict deadlines or timelines. How did you deal with it? Okay, these are the type of probing questions that you want to ask, so you can see how they deal with certain situations, because you want to know that they're going to be able to handle that in your environment, in your business. Okay, and I would say, you can craft these and customize them to different things that are going on in your business right now, and the reason why you need this person in that role. Okay, take those different situations that have happened, and when you've needed to have that, that person in a role, you're like, I have to have this operations manager because I need them to handle this, this, and that. Jot down some of those incidents or situations or examples, and I would convert those over to interview questions as well too. Okay, but let me say this. Definitely do that, but you want to stay away from questions that can be taken in the wrong manner. And so you want to stay away from questions like, Are you married? That has nothing to do with the position. Okay, so you want to ask questions that are specific to the role. So why are you married? I would even also say stay away from the questions like tell me a little bit about yourself, because the things that they may tell you may be a little bit too personal. And so you don't want it to skew the perception of the interview or impact the interview. So I would say stay away from those questions. Religious questions, different things like that. Those are the don'ts in any type of interview that you do. Do you have kids? Those are not good interview questions. Interview questions should be specific to the role and how they will perform in that role. Nothing should be related to personal questions. So definitely move away from that. Okay. But again, you want to have interview questions together when you start your hiring process, when you're looking for your team member. Okay. Get your list together, come prepared. Don't wing it. Don't ask questions and not be prepared. Have your list there so it can guide you. And it should be a step-by-step process in these interview questions to get you to what you're looking for. And also, at the end of any type of interview session, make sure that you do a Q&A and allow them time to ask questions for you, because a lot of times, they're interviewing the business as well too, that organization. They want to know why they should come work for you as well too. So make sure that you allow time for that, so that way you can make sure that it's a good match as well. Also, just a couple more things with the interview questions. Make sure that you have the type of interview, the interview process you want, because you may want a panel. It doesn't have to be one-on-one as well too. You may want to have them come in, whether they're flying down to your business, or if it is Skype, and that you have your top leadership team there, or the sales team. You can have the peers there, because it's oftentimes it's good to do that as well too. And usually that's like in the first initial type interviews, and then there's the next level that they go to and they interview with upper management. But you can do the panel interviews. You can do role play interviews, so that way you can see how they would react in certain situations as well too. You can do modeling interviews if it's something that they're actually going to be teaching or demonstrating or something like that. You can have them come in and do that. So there's all type of different ways that you can craft the entire interview process and what the interview will look like. But just make sure that you have that pre-done and that you've communicated it to the candidate as well too. All right, onboarding employees. This is just a checklist that I wanted to share with you when you onboard an employee, different things that you would want to have available. Okay, and so it would be I-9, federal tax, state tax, all these different things. Now, you, depending upon where you are in your business or organization, you may or may not have all of these done. So like a policy manual, a handbook, different things like that. Hopefully you will get there, because these are things that you definitely want to have in place. But if not, that's okay. But take from this what you do have and just make sure that it's a checklist that guides you when you do hire the employee and you onboard them. You want to be able to go down this list and put it in the employee's file. All right, so after you've hired the employees, with managing a successful team, you always want to set expectations. Okay, you have to set expectations. If you don't, then you are heading for disaster. Okay, because the employee is not clear on what you expect of them, and then ultimately you're not clear as well too. You may have it in your head and what you expect them to do and what you think they should do, but if you have not clearly communicated that to the employee, then that's a problem. Okay, and you won't be able, it'll be hard to hold them accountable. Okay, so with the first bullet here, it talks about clear direction. Okay, this is something where it falls back to communication as well too. You need to give clear direction and guidance on what needs to happen in their role. What are you expecting them to do? How are you expecting them to do it? When are you expecting them to do it? And then also the why. Let them know why they're doing that. Why does it make a positive impact to the organization? Okay, how does it add value to the organization, or how does it add value to the process of what they're doing? They need clear direction on what the goals are that you want them to achieve. Okay, that is a win-win for both parties when you give clear direction. Okay, you have to do that in order for them to be successful, in their position, and you to be successful as far as managing them, or being a business owner as well too, whichever way. All right. Next is the clarity of roles. Okay. When you talk about their role, okay, depending upon the level of their role, there may be different layers because it may be their role, then there may be middle management, it may be upper management. So clarify what their role is, who they report to, how do you want that process to look like? Give them information about it, and you want to do this. This needs to be done early on. Okay, all of this information that I'm giving you on setting expectations, really like the first day. So hopefully you have maybe like a onboarding day or a new hire orientation day, and you want to, which is in the first 1 to 3 days of employment with you, you want to sit down or have the person that's in charge of this sit down and go over this with them. Okay, set goals. You want to set goals. Talk about what they should be achieving, what they should be working on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few with performance management. Okay, how we're going to set those goals and manage that. All right. You want to give continuous feedback. Once the employee is hired, you want to go back, check in with them, ask how's it going, how can I be of assistance to you? Check in to see if everything is running okay. One of when I was human resources director, and a lot of the issues that I dealt with, and when we were improving performance management and employee engagement, it always boiled down to a lot of times where there was a gap in communication and feedback. Okay, and that's because the employee is not knowing whether or not they're doing good, or if they're doing bad, if there's area for opportunity of improvement. So you need to give that feedback to them on a continuous basis. Okay, it doesn't have to be, just with the annual evaluation, or it doesn't have to be just with the semi-annual evaluation. There needs to be continuous feedback. You give a project, during those projects, hopefully you have milestones and check-ins that are set up. You need to constantly follow up with them, let them know on how they're doing. Okay, you've done a disservice to yourself if you wait to the end of that project and you say, well, you know what, I noticed that at the beginning of the project you did not complete this on time, or you had hiccups in here, you didn't know how to address it, and you're telling them this at the end. They didn't get an opportunity to correct it. And then also you've wasted, probably, I'm pretty sure, money, time, product, resources throughout that entire project by not letting them know, because they're going down a road in which they think it is successful and it's actually not. So you need to make sure that you guide and give them this feedback constantly so they can immediately course correct what the problem is, because you want to nip it in the bud ASAP, as soon as possible. Okay, so give that continuous feedback, so that way they know what's working and then what's not. Okay, test it out, let them know, hey, we need to do this a little bit better. No, this was very good, exciting, I'm proud of you on this. Give their recognition. And then last is always communicate. You want to communicate. All right. There shouldn't be any gap. There shouldn't be, I didn't know. And that's both. And all of these, let me add to say this. All of this is a two-way street as well, too, because hopefully the employees know that they can come and talk with you about this as well, too. Give you feedback on what's going on their end, that they feel comfortable to be able to come and communicate with you as well. All right, so that's setting expectation, and that is your foundation of managing your team. Setting those expectations up front, letting them know what you expect, giving them direction, letting them know what their role is, setting the goals, and giving that continuous feedback to them to let them know how it's progressing. Okay, because one thing also, if you're giving the continuous feedback and it's not getting any better, then this goes back to our statistic that we talked about at the beginning, is that 80% comes to bad hires. If you're giving them the feedback and you see that they just cannot improve, or they're not, it's either a skill or a will, and either way, one of the two, they may not have the skill for it, may not have the will. There needs to be course correction there, and if it's not corrected, or if they can't correct it, then you may have to move down another road, and then that other road may just lead to severing ties. Okay. All right. Now, managing a team. This is essential for managing a team. You have to educate your team. You want to nurture your team, know your team, be a team player, have autonomy, open door policy, engagement culture, and transparency. So let's talk a little bit about that. All right. Managing a team is very important to the health of your organization. Okay. Imagine managing it the right way. Let me say that, because you can manage it all day and it won't be successful. Okay. But managing it the right way. And first, you want to educate your team. Okay. They need to know exactly what they need to be working on. This can come in forms of professional development. It can come in form of personal development, but either way, it may be educating them on different processes that you're working on, different laws that have come up that affect your team and what you're doing, depending on your industry and the goals of your business, and maybe educating them on business opportunities that you need to take advantage of. So educate them, keep them in the loop, basically, of what's going on. Tell them about it, okay? The more you know, the more you share with them, the more the business will grow, okay? Because you're all working towards one goal. So you definitely need to educate them throughout, throughout their employment. Nurture your team, all right? Yes, you have different personalities inside of your team, and everybody may not want to feel quote unquote nurtured. However, I can tell you, the number one feedback I always see during 360 surveys, or if I'm doing investigations about managing teams and conflict with management, it's always about, not always, let me say not always, but oftentimes there is a lack of appreciation and recognition oftentimes that I get from employees when it comes to the nurturing a team. They don't feel like they get that. And this is by no way anything that's always bad on management, because there's a lot on your plate, a lot of things going on. And so taking the time to do that often requires a lot of, attention and intention as well too. So make sure that you nurture your team. You're checking in on with them, seeing how things are going, letting them know that they're appreciated, recognizing them. And this may be during, and I say this goes along as well too with the establish and drive engaging culture, team building activities that you have, staff appreciation days. And then also, you can, in these team building activities, it can always connect, or always should connect, to a goal of the organization. So make sure that it ties to that, okay? When you're nurturing your team and you do any type of activities or meetings or anything like that, it still can tie to that, but just show the appreciation to go along with that. All right. Know your team. Get to know what drives them. Learn what motivates them. Know their interests. When you can connect and engage with their team, and you know exactly what that is that gets them going, they can be very productive, and your business will thrive. Okay. You know what excites them. You know what teammates and team players to put on this particular project. Okay. This is not their strengths. Okay. And these personalities, may not get along well. So I know my team. I know how to connect them so I can make this run smoothly. Okay. But the only way that you can do that is if you get to know them. Okay. And you can best match them to what they are strong at. All right. Also, make sure that you are a team player. You want the team to act like a team, so you need to make sure that you're a team player. Of course, there's always, you have to have management and oversight of that, but just make sure they know that. Autonomy. I, definitely want to stress this, because you don't have to be, I think there's a time and place for everything. Let me say that, because autonomy, you want to empower, you want to give them the autonomy to be flexible, to be able to take the assignment and run with it and do their job, and not be leaning over their shoulders all of the time. Okay. Oftentimes some people don't work well under those conditions. I do not encourage being a micromanager. Now, there are times where you may have to be a micromanager, but most of the times when that happens, that's because that person is not doing their job. And so that is more questionable as well too. All right. And so that's a totally different webinar when we talk about the micromanagement and everything like that. But, give them the autonomy, have an open door policy, so that way they can come and talk with you. They need to know that you are available, that they can express their concerns with you. All right. And then be transparent. Things going on in the company. The last thing you wanted to do is for them to come around and the gossip mill runs, and there's things that's going on in the organization. And by the time that they've heard it, it's all twisted and it's not the truth. Let them know up front. Okay. They'll respect you more. They'll get over it faster, whatever it may be, because you are transparent and open and honest with them about what's going on in the organization. So make sure that you are transparent. All right, performance management. So performance management is managing, just in a quick nutshell. Um, this is when you're a part of the evaluation of managing the performance of your employees. Okay, and so we're going to talk about performance review, and it always begins with goal setting. Okay, anytime, and as I said, when you set expectations, you should be writing down goals that you want the team to achieve. All right, written goals allow you to measure and recognize achievement. All right. The goal setting process, so you should know, it should start with a conversation between the employee and the manager to discuss what success will look like. This is how you set your goals. You're looking for the end. What you want to do is the end game, okay? And you reverse engineer back from that. So these are our goals, okay? And how are we going to reach them? You want to tie it to that. So throughout that, reinforce good behavior, change less acceptable behavior based on individual abilities, behaviors, and performance, okay? As you going back to the written goals allow you to both measure and recognize achievement, okay? It also allows you to identify and correct performance problems when you have the written goals, because you can always tie it to that. This is something that they've talked about, that you know it is actually written, and you can say you made an impact here or you didn't. This is where the gaps were identified. These are our wins. These were the opportunities that you had. And then also, when you write goals, make sure that you write them with action verbs, okay? You want to use action verbs, okay? Implement, okay? Monitor, different things like that. They need to start with action verbs because it's something that they need to do, point blank. It's something that the employee needs to do. All right. So that was just a quick review about performance review, just to touch on it. Also, with performance management, and we talk about performance reviews, make sure that you observe, document, give feedback, okay? This gives in when we go and we talk about like our evaluations, okay? The only way that you can evaluate an employee is if you've observed their performance and how well that they have performed in that particular work. Role. So you definitely need to make sure that you have observed. Go in, sit in on their work, sit in on the project, sit in on the meetings, okay? Have check-ins, check the work, okay? You need to observe. You need to document what you observe as well, too. Make sure that you have a date. Make sure that you have a time that you observe. Make sure you have a synopsis of what happened, all right? This needs to be documented because you need to reference it when you sit down and talk with your employees. And when you do these evaluations, it gives them an idea of how they are performing. And you're giving them feedback during that time as well, too. But as I said, don't wait till the evaluation, whether you have an annual review, if you have a mid-year check-in, you don't have to wait till that time just to give them feedback, okay, or just to start observing or to start documenting, okay? This should be a continuous process throughout the entire time, okay? Give the feedback, and you need to make sure that you have that documentation and feedback, because in the end, if it's not working out with that team member, you want to be able to refer to that. On such and such date, I observed you, doing this. We had a conversation about it. I have not seen any improvement. Document on this day and date, we had to, I address this again. I have not received any improvement, because what it may lead up to is termination. And I can tell you that termination, you need to make sure that you have documents to support that. Okay. Now, this is not, as critical when you talk about contractors as employees, but to make sure with employees that you hire with your employees, you want to make sure that you have documentation to go along with that for the evaluation. And again, you can do mid-year check-ins for your evaluation. You can do annual reviews. You can do quarterly reviews. But the whole purpose of it is to have those conversations, to communicate, document it, and be able to offer that feedback, because you don't want to get down the road. Here it is a year later. There's employees that you should have severed, cut your ties with, and you are still holding on to that employee. So they're costing you money, because your business cannot thrive because they're not productive in what they do, and they're the wrong fit for the position. All right, so we went over a lot of information just now, and we talked about building an HR strategy and hiring strategies and different things that you need to focus on with your team in order for it to be successful. Okay, so we're going to recap. Hiring strategy. Make sure that you have a hiring strategy in place. Okay. You do not want to wing it just because there's a lot going on. You know, hey, we're getting to the end of the year, going into the new year. I need to get someone really fast that's going to help me. I'm just inundated. I'm swamped. Make sure that you have a strategy in place. And this doesn't take long. If you jotted down the information that I talked about in the beginning with those questions, that will help you formulate your hiring strategy and what you need to put in place when you start hiring your next team member. Okay, because it will speed up the process for you, and then it will ensure that your money is well spent, and then you have a good quality candidate. Next is set expectations. You have to do this early on, okay, with setting expectations. You need to tell up front, you know, what the roles are, give clear guidance and direction, communicate. You want to be able to give feedback, set the expectation of what you want to happen, what you want to see happen. So there are no assumptions, okay? Assumptions will lead you down a bad road and will lead the team member down a bad road as well too. So no assumptions, set the expectations. Manage your employees. You don't need to be a quote unquote hands-off manager, okay, where you're just letting them go. There's a difference between that, because we talked about autonomy, all right, but you still have to manage those employees. You still have to give them direction. You still need to touch, see what's going on, all right. You still need to nurture. You still need to have an open door policy. You still need to be able to know your team, because you can't give direction and make sure that the projects and assignments are working like they're supposed to if you're not managing employees. Now, you may have, depending on the structure of your business, you may have somebody that directly manages the employees and you do this indirectly, and that's totally fine. Just make sure that somebody is managing the employees, okay, and make sure that it's not confused with autonomy and being hands-off, okay, managing employees. Then, with a recap, make sure that you have some type of performance management plan. You want to manage the performance of your team members, okay? You need to set the goals. You need to observe what's going on. And observation doesn't always have to be physical. This can be them turning in projects to you looking it over, seeing if everything was done like it was supposed to be done. Give them the feedback, okay? Document what you saw. All right, communicate. But you have to be able to manage performance, because if you're not managing the performance of the team, then your performance of the business will go down. It won't thrive. You won't know where the gaps are. You will see that the business is not growing. Productivity is low. You're missing deadlines. And so everything is bottlenecking, and you're wondering what is going on. All right. You have to go back and look at the team and what it's doing, not always the team, but the projects on the team, and then just reverse engineer from that. Okay. Find the root causes for it. So you need to be able to manage that performance. Always set your goals. Okay. Keep in mind that that is important. The goal setting process should start with the conversation. Okay. You're trying to look at what success will look like. And then make sure that you are measuring so that you recognize achievement. Okay, that goal setting process is important. Then observation and document, as I talked about before. Okay, so any questions before? That was our recap that we have. Does anyone have any questions? I'll give you a minute to ask questions if you do have them. Okay, all right. Looks like we don't have any questions, so I'm gonna keep moving. Next, so I know that we talked about all of this information about this, and so you may be wondering, okay, what do I need? What can I outsource, and what can I hire for when it comes to human resources and strategy and team? So there's numerous things that you can outsource and options here, and you'll see it on the screen. So there is human resources administration, and that's basically everything when it comes to human resources, your day-to-day operations, how you're going to build that out. Performance management, we talked about that. Leave disability, talent management, and talent management is basically what we talked about in the beginning, your hiring strategy. Okay, who is going to manage the talent? Who's going to do? Who's actually going to manage the recruiting process, who's going to put together the hiring strategy, who's going to present the candidates, all of that, the interview process. That's what your talent management is. Advice and guidance. Okay, this is something else, you know, that you can outsource if you know that right now in my organization I may need help or assistance with some of these things because I really don't know, may not have the expertise on this. And so you can outsource advice and guidance, you know, to a consultant that can help you manage your day-to-day, you know, human resources, or just give you advice on certain incidents that may occur or things that you're trying to implement inside of your business. Also, wage and hour compliance, day-to-day HR, employee relations, and recruitment. Now, employee relations, just so you know, because we really didn't talk about that. So employee relations is when you may have to do it. It's an array of things, but I can give you one example, just because we're a little bit short on time. Is, let's just say for an employee that you may have a sexual harassment complaint and you need to address it. That would fall on employee relations. So you may need somebody to come in and do an investigation for you. Make sure that they investigate, interview witnesses, that they get all of the documentation and come up with a decision on whether or not you should terminate that employee based on any type of training that was done, any type of forms that were signed to make sure that they went through the sexual harassment training. So those are your employee. That's an example of employee relations, because I know everybody's not familiar with that term, but that's an example of what that looks like. Okay, for employee relations. And then you have recruitment as well too. So recruitment is, you know, recruiting the employees that you have or that you may need in the organization. Now, questions to consider. Are you ready to hire your first or next team member? Okay, what is your hiring strategy? Think about these things as we have talked through them during the webinar. How are you currently handling human resources issues? How do you know that you're in compliance with all labor-related laws? What would you do if you were faced with a sexual harassment claim? Would you know how to handle that? Okay, has everyone been trained? This is where having a human resources consultant that has that background and knowledge can come in and help you. Not only with that, but really all of these questions here. Do you have an employee handbook? A consultant can come in and craft that handbook, put it together for you, make sure that it's updated. Training programs they can help you with. Your hiring strategy they can help with. They can actually manage and oversee the recruitment of for you for upcoming positions, you know, advertising for you, actually, you know, get the interviewing process together, send you the most qualified candidates, so that way you don't have to worry about it. And again, this is part of scaling the company, scaling your team, because you can grow up. You don't have to focus on that, but you know that it needs to be done, and it needs to be done right. So consider these questions as you think about, you know, scaling your team and growing your business. If you want your business to grow and increase productivity, these are some of the things that, you know, you would need to do. You need to put in place. Okay. And then next, you join me today because you want to hire a high quality performing team and grow your business. 2016 is right around the corner. Your business, you know that you want to take it to the next level. You cannot do it by yourself, or you may need to add to your existing team that you have right now. And there are certain things that you know you need to put in place in order to upscale this and make it successful. Okay, so if you join me today because of that, what is your reality? Okay, are you managing human resources? Have you redefined your business strategy? How are you planning and goal setting? Okay, do you need assistance with building a team? Okay, these are some of the questions that you may have, and it may be a reality in your business that you may need assistance with, that you've thought about, that you want to go into the year with the bang, you know, and with a strategy, most importantly, a strategy and a plan to be successful. And so these are some of the questions that lingering questions that you may have. And if this is your reality, then I invite you to have a complimentary strategy session with me on your human resources strategy. It can be business strategy as well too, because HR actually drives into businesses right now, because it all focuses on that. Okay, so I invite you to join me for a complimentary strategy session so we can talk about exactly what do you need, what does your strategy need to look like to build and manage your team, a successful team in 2016. And note that I'm saying successful, because You want a successful team. You don't want to be a part of that 80% on the Harvard Business Review that are talking about with a bad hire. And that can happen oftentimes, you know. You'll hear some people say, well, you know, you just got to test it out and everything like that. But there are things that you can put in place before that, so you don't have to invest and have to quote unquote test it out. Okay, there are parameters that can be set, things that you can do to get it right the first time. So I invite you to join me for a complimentary strategy session, so that way we can talk about what your team, our HR strategy needs to look like, and how you can have a successful team. So what's next? Take advantage of this complimentary strategy session to grow and level up your business. And then you can download the bonuses that we have here for you. All right. Now, next, I will go with the, see if there's any questions that you may have. So are there any questions? I know that we talked about a lot. I gave you the complimentary strategy link in the chat box that you have there. So if there's any questions that you may have about any of the information that we talked about right now, I'll go ahead and give you a few minutes to ask those questions. Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions. So I will go ahead. I want to keep my promise. I told you that it would be an hour, and it is 1 o'clock on the dot. So it has been a full 60 minutes. But I want to thank you for joining me today as we talked about strategies for hiring and managing a successful team in 2016. I wish you and your business success in the upcoming year. And if you want to take advantage of the complimentary strategy session to up-level your business, to talk about what can work, how to manage a team successfully, so make sure your business grow and you're working on your business and not in your business, because that's what your team members should be doing, then let's definitely talk. You can get my link below. But again, feel free to contact me. Thank you very much. Great having you, and enjoy the rest of your day.